Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Fours podcast, a podcast from Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. Today, we have a special episode for you. Some of our other friends have already released them. We're a little late to the game, but it doesn't matter because these interviews are awesome. This is our third one with Alan Tudyk, who's at Lucasfilm. How was it?
Oh my God.
Interviewing K-2SO himself.
It was, we've talked about Margit, we've talked about Tony, and I've been calling everything surreal so far, but now I feel like the word is dissociating, because we were talking on for the first episode when we were talking about Margit, I was talking about how the minute you just walk into Lucasfilm, you're overloaded with all the nerd stuff that you love and everything that you're seeing about a place that you've only seen in videos or heard about, and then all of a sudden you're there, like your mind is absorbing so much information that it's really easy to get tired fast, and I felt that way with Alan.
Last one of the day,
and it's last one of the day. I mean, and I'll say as a bad thing. It's just I feel that's just like the nature of that beast, and he was kind of a surprise. Because when we got the invitation to do everything, it was only Margit and it was only Tony. And it was like a couple hours before my flight that we got the official itinerary of what the day was going to look like, that all of a sudden they had Alan there as an additional guest that we were going to be able to interview. So it was, amazing, because like, holy crap, we're going to get to meet Alan Tudyk, who's an incredible actor that, from some of our favorite movies, at least for me, like A Knight's Tale is one of my favorite movies. So to see him in person, he's like, oh my God.
And Firefly,
Dodgeball, like he's got, and not to talk about like all his voice work.
Yeah.
But, Alan's a big deal. But it wasn't our first encounter with Alan. We were very lucky, and we posted this on Instagram on Friday, I think it was, whatever. One of these days. We posted last week. We posted about our ILM tour that we did out for StageCraft, where they do all the motion capture stuff for the films. And while they're doing the tour, all of a sudden, Alan Tudyk just shows up and surprises all of us there. So it's just one of those moments where you're like, what's happening? You're in the room.
Where am I?
And then all of a sudden, all I'm thinking, she's like, shit, now I got to come up with the questions for you in a couple of hours. And I don't have any questions prepared. And it was very difficult, to be honest. I mean, that experience at Alan was incredible. Having him talk about his experience doing all the K-2SO thing, like in a room where they do that thing, and we had one of the performers in the stills in the motion capture suit with the stage that had like a live rendering of K2 going on the screen. It was incredible to see not only the technology live, but then see the person that brought to life that character within the bounds of the technology in the room. Absolutely magical. But it was, going back to the interview, it was very challenging, and I wish that I had a lot more time to have prepared for it.
Right.
Because for me, it was very challenging to come up with questions for Alan, because in the back of my mind, as I'm kind of thinking through everything, I'm like, we don't get to see a lot of K2 in season 2, and when we do see him, it's basically right at that Rogue One moment. So it's not as if we get a lot of character development right for him, and so we can't really ask about that. So it was at least for me very challenging to think about questions for Alan, because you could ask any billion questions, right? But you also don't want to ask the same things that other people
everyone else has already asked
throughout these whole months that he's been doing press. So it's like this delicate balance of like, okay, let's ask something new, but then like what is new that other people haven't asked. So it was definitely challenging, and by that point also exhaustion. I was so exhausted that when that interview started, as magical as it is to see Alan come in, because you're like, oh my God, I already saw you, but it's still amazing that you're coming now to talk to us, Group 1. So shout out once again to Blast Points, Star Wars Explained, and Children on the Watch for being an amazing Group 1. but then you're like, like I'm tired, and I started dissociating at that moment. I was just, and but having a good time at the same time, because like seeing him interact with like all of our peers there and like giving really good answers, I was just vibing. So I'm just like, I don't think I need to ask anything.
Step in all that much, yeah.
Anymore, but I did. There were questions in there that I dropped in that maybe the answers were interesting, maybe they weren't, but but we got some cool Alan Tudyk moments for everyone. So maybe I just shut up and let everyone listen to it.
Just watch the interview.
Yeah, so let's go. Without further ado, let's see what the Group 1 interview of Alan Tudyk looked like. Enjoy.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah. Jason, I'm looking at you.
Okay, all right.
That's what happens. Oh, wait, do you want to just do a quick intro for us?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm Alex Maxwell. I'm from Children of the Watch.
My name's Jason Gibner. I'm from Blast Points Podcast.
Okay.
I'm Gustavo Acosta, but you can call me Goose, and I'm from Trial of the Force.
I'm Alex Damon from the YouTube channel Star Wars Explained.
And I'm Molly Damon from Star Wars Explained.
Nice. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Alan Tudyk from
And what have you done?
Rogue One and now Andor 2.
Yeah.
So, Andor Season 2.
And the Night's Tale.
The Night's Tale.
And
With
And
Nicole.
dodgeball. There's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
there's so many.
It's too much.
Okay, so you've had the rare opportunity to play a character now, and you've seen his death first and then his birth.
Right.
Yeah, so now knowing, was going into Andor Season 2 and knowing the full spectrum of K-2SO's life, did that inform the way you played K2 coming back in Season 2?
There's a jump in time there, So
I think
it was different. Season 2 is different from Rogue One. Just in the style of storytelling and, the pace of it and it's so granular because it can be. And that's the way he's telling the story, which is so fun to watch for me. I got joy out of just watching things go slowly and unexpectedly slowly, and scenes to go to different places you don't expect them to go. And when we made the movie, it was a little bit more, it was a film, so we had 2 hours to tell the whole story. And honestly, it was a little looser because our script kept changing. I think I could say this. The script kept changing. We were a little bit, flying by the seat of our pants. There was this weird period in the middle where that happened. And so during that time, there was a lot of improvising and stuff because we had time. And with Tony's, with Andor, I was able to keep my idea of K-2SO's birth, sort of like his being raised by Cassian, intact, because we don't see it. So it wasn't removed and written by someone else. So I was able to keep my idea there. So I was able to maintain continuity in my character. But the things that he does are very murdery. It's pretty murdery.
Yeah.
And
Human shield.
yeah, Human Shield. It's just it's shocking, and it's just great. It does make sense why Cassian wouldn't give him a blast in the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust this guy. There's even a line where he's like, "Now have I shown that I can be trusted? I'm trusted," and he doesn't answer me.
there's
He doesn't say anything.
there's a scene where K2 is talking about a parade that he was in a Coruscant, and he's almost talking about it like wistfully.
Yeah.
After his reprogramming, what does K2 think of the Empire? Does he kind of miss any part of it? Was he like looking back fondly on being near the Emperor?
I think it was. I think it was the Emperor was a star.
Yeah.
It was something to be proud of. He got to see the Emperor. I think his devotion is to Cassian, mainly, and that's where he'll do everything for Cassian.
Is that because he gave him that freedom?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's I always saw him as kind of a father figure. there was so much in Rogue One about the father, her father, and I always saw Cassian as that. He would say no until he says you have to. Okay. He'll do what he says because he cares about it. And yeah, because he gave him his life, he freed him. I always saw it as a freeing. Like he was this droid inside, some version of him that was unable to, talk, react, be. He was constrained by programming, and he was free.
You have mentioned kind of your own internal continuity, and that is something that I so badly wish that we had gotten to see was the early days of K2 and
Right.
Cassian. And do you have any headcanon of how that went and how they developed a level of trust?
I have an idea of a scene where this is ridiculous. Cassian, I think we should have another series.
Yes.
We'll call it K2 and Up, and it's 2 months and up, or 2 weeks and up, and Cassian's there. Come on, open up the exhaust port. Stay on target. Here comes the X-wing. I just imagine it was a lot of mistakes, a lot like a child or a dog that is making messes on the carpet, that he would have to make additional adjustments from the original thing that happened that he wasn't involved in. That there was a scene that I think was my audition scene where K2, they're landing on some planet that has a magnetic field that when he goes through, it scrambles him, and it speeds him up and it slows him down, and he loses it and goes crazy. And I love that scene. It was great. He starts to not make sense. He's like, "What are you, K2? What's going on?" It was the, and then it went. He's just saying a bunch of nonsense. So that still exists in his. That happened in those. Something went off. He spilled a cup of coffee on it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe some Revnog. Something.
It would have been great to get a montage of him just like learning how to do everything.
Raising.
Yeah.
His first
steps, yeah.
K2 Too Furious.
yeah, K2 Fast, K2 Furious.
Yeah.
We did go to Japan, and it was a little Tokyo Drift happening there.
Yeah.
But we didn't get the whole. Yeah, we didn't. That's maybe for an animation when Lucasfilm was way out of ideas.
So you've performed and voiced a whole bunch of different types of characters. What makes K-2SO so unique?
I don't know. I mean, there was a part of a script that got changed. There was a scene where we had landed the U-wing, and Cassian has a quick conversation with somebody who's a general or somebody senior to him, and he turns to me and says, "Droid, get those crates." And I said, "No." And I walk away. And when I read that, I was like, "Oh, yeah. That's who he is. That's who he is." And even when Cassian, when Jen first comes in, or when first I slam her down, but then when she's in the ship, and Cassian comes in, he's like, "I see you met K2," and she says, "Yeah, lovely." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry about that. He just says whatever comes into his circuits, and he doesn't know what I said, but he's apologizing for it." And I do have friends like that. I've had friends where they're just like, "Oh man, what did you say now?" And I think that's it. He's just he just says what's on his mind, and he's sweet because of it. He'll say things that are offensive accidentally, I guess. Not that, yeah. I think he's like a child.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, I'm just now thinking, it's not just that he's a child, but he's been programmed by the Empire, where it's like, you have to do this. And now he has this choice of like, get those crates.
Yeah, right.
What are you gonna do?
Right. No, I don't.
The gift of autonomy now.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that inspired when we were in. Oh my God, where were we? Yemen. Where we were? God, when we shot Jeddah, and it wasn't Yemen. Jordan. Thank you. Jordan. Yemen. No. And she throws the bag.
Yeah.
And I just dropped it because I'm like, I'm not holding your bag. But that was, it's funny how things come together.
Alex, it's like you said, it reminds me of like saying that K2 is like a child. And it's like when a child first learns to say no,
Mm-hmm.
or first learns that they don't have to do everything that their parents are telling them to do.
Right.
And that just makes all the sense. It's great.
Yeah. It's a lot of no. Yeah, I'm sure. Like we'll hit that in K2 and up, where he just really is knowing a lot.
K2, the teenage years. We can
Yeah. You're not my real dad. Definitely.
It reminds me kind of like Groot.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It's like aging up. Yeah, it's similar.
Shifting a little bit, right, to the more technical side. We were just at StageCraft and seeing, how how K-2SO is made behind the scenes, how the sausage is made in many ways. So your first appearance as K2 in Rogue One was like 9 years ago, and now you're back for the role for season 2. So did the technology change in any meaningful way for you from one production to another that helped facilitate your performance?
Nah. It probably did. It did in a way that other people were aware of, but not for me.
The suit was just as comfortable.
The suit was just as comfortable and just as fashionable. That little hat was my favorite.
Were you excited to get back on the stilts too? Where you're like, yes, I'm so glad they did figure out a way to just make me tall.
No, I did like the stilts, actually. I really did.
Really?
We shoot in England. England rains all the time, and there'll be on these backlots huge puddles that people have to figure out how to navigate around. I just walked straight through them. They weren't going to be that deep. And yeah, I liked being that tall. I enjoyed it. I missed them when they were gone. I wish I was tall. You're tall. I got a little taste. some really sweet air up there.
Before the stilts, was it just the head that was on the thing up back here?
That was whenever there was a dangerous place, like in Jordan, because that was a cliff that we were all on, a real cliff.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they didn't want me to fall, which was nice of them.
Yeah.
But Diego gave me so much grief about that thing because it was so cheap looking. It was just a piece of poster board with a sticker of K-2SO on that stick and the backpack. I didn't even have to take this off. Everyone's depressed. The whole crew thought they were on a huge movie. Now they look at you and it's ridiculous. Take it off. Yeah, it's the backpack of shame. So anytime there was running, like when we were in wherever else we were in.
Did you slap him
Maldives.
because he was making too much fun of you?
the genesis of the slap.
The slap. The real story of the slap. Like I kind of remembered it. And I remembered. So what happened was because it was loose. He shows up on set with this cut on his lip, this little thing, and Gareth goes, "Oh, no, you don't have it." What? I came in early. I had to do a whole thing. I was like, "No, that scene is cut where you get that, so you don't have a cut on your lip." He's like, "Well, I don't want to go take it off. I spent all this time on it. Can't I get it some other way?" I said, "I'll slap you." And yep, and then it quickly came together. And then because it was all just kind of loose like that, I said that thing. I couldn't believe they put it in. And there's a fresh one if you mouth off again. And he's laughing. And the one that they used, you can see his smile. And it's because he didn't expect me to say that. But he knew the slap was coming. It was to cover the looseness, which is, I love how things can kind of come together. It's just how it works.
Kind of speaking on that, what was it like to go back to Diego and have that relationship again on Andor Season 2 when it's been so long since Rogue One?
Mm-hmm.
Did you pick it right up and you guys just continue on? What was that like, just stepping back into the role of K2?
I mean, it was. Yes, we didn't have a lot of adventures, the two of us. Like all those scenes, like waking him up and stuff like that, and just playing the chess with him, those moments. But it felt early, it really did feel early. There was less of a embrace of K2, Diego's coming into that with everything around that character that's going on. It's so tense, and we didn't really have that tension on Rogue One as much because it hadn't been written. It hadn't been, at that point in the story, it is just, my God, he's been through so much and he just wants out. And, we got along fine as people, but, we didn't have a lot of back and forth hijinks, I guess, like sparring. There's one moment that I like a lot where I say, do you know how many rules or something that we're breaking right now? Do you want to know? No. 7. And click something up. 8. That's that felt like the old banter.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit. It's fun.
Was that improv, or was any of it improv, or was it more scripted?
You couldn't improv. You couldn't improv. I could have, but it just happened the way it happened. Was that the writer's strike started, and Tony had to leave.
Oh, yeah.
So everything was frozen. But that back and forth into my own writing. That back and forth, I pitched to Tony before I left for England, and he approved it. So I got that one in. I would have a different take for everything, but my takes can go way off into Andor is this. I think of it as like a finely tooled machine, and really, you can't. It would almost be like, if it gets too crazy, it'd be like Roger Rabbit, where there's suddenly real actors and then some animated actor there that's being crazy. It stayed within, the palette of the show.
You got to write a story for K2, didn't you? A comic or?
Oh yeah, I got to work on his dialogue.
Yeah.
Just like all of his.
Or in 2017, I think you wrote Star Wars Adventures comic.
Yeah, the kids one. Yeah, they let me. I guess they had a thing on the story, and I think I mainly just did the dialogue, just because he's tough to get. Like a lot of people write him like C-3PO, and just snarky, and like a bit. It's like ugh, I don't like that guy.
Yeah.
But it comes from a genuine place, so it's more like a clown, more like an innocent.
Like a class clown.
Class clown. Yeah, that was yep, like that.
It's imposed. And there's a lot of iconic hallway scenes in Star Wars, and now K2 got his own hallway scenes. So I guess how did that feel to join the pantheon of hallway scenes? And is K2 scene better than Vader's in Rogue One?
No, no way. I like mine, but that Vader scene kills. I've watched it so many times. I still don't even know how he got in there. It doesn't even make sense.
The Force.
What? He can't just phase through walls. It doesn't even make sense, but it's so great. I love it. And then he's doing all the things you've always wanted. That we could do now. Darth Vader sticking somebody to the ceiling and stabbing. Come on! That was great. It's a sword fight, ultimately. That was cool.
I always think of an interview that Gareth Edwards did at one of the premieres for Rogue One, where he said, somebody asked him, how will you know if Rogue One has become a Star Wars classic? And he said something like, if in 10 years I see someone wearing a K-2SO t-shirt, I'll know that we made it.
Yeah.
And I watched that interview recently, and it really hit me, where I was like, yeah, when I think of everything with Andor, that Rogue One has become a Star Wars classic. So as being someone so involved in Rogue One and now Andor, looking back on Rogue One and just seeing the love that's never gone away for this movie. That's got to be a really great thing for you.
It really is. You know, the Star Wars world has gotten so much bigger since we made Rogue One. There have been, you know, there weren't any series at that point. The Mandalorian hadn't come out. That came out right after, I think. And so that's something else that, like, when we were, and I wonder, like, Rogue One, even though it's back, where it sits. Anyway, watching the movie. Let me back it. Cut that off.
Let that out.
Yeah, I just recently finished. When I finished Andor, I was like, "Gotta start Rogue One."
Yeah,
let's go right into this. And the feel of it, you know, it is a movie, but also the music is very echoes Star Wars, early Star Wars music, and it's very dramatic and very big, and it's in places where, like, just Saw Gerrera, like, puts his thing down. It's like dun dun dun. Like, whoa, whoa. Because in Andor it was much more eerie, and, you know, it's creeping, and it's tense, and yeah, I wonder if it was actually in line. It would be different, you know. But I love that people still love it. I love it. There's a point in that movie where everything just starts to happen, and I have such a good time.
Rewatching Rogue One after seeing all of Andor was weird because, yeah, it does feel very fast at that point. You're like, wait. That was weird.
Well, what's that guy's story?
Episodes? What?
Yeah.
Oh. I think we have time for one more question. If anybody has a quick one to wrap us up.
My daughter loves Moana.
Oh, yeah.
Could you do "Hey Hey" for us real quick?
Well,
or are you gonna bust out the mic? Or
the screen kills me. But you know, he was on the boat, and then he fell off, and a lot of that stuff.
Thank you. She'll love that.
Great.
Love it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that interview. Alan seems like a really cool guy, by the way. And I don't think he should have been that worried, actually. He kind of ran with it, which was really cool. He seemed to be like really into it. So good.
He did, and I'm glad that we were Group One because you know, Group One got to talk to everyone before, so we, you know, Group Two did an excellent job too. So go make sure to listen to, like, their interviews for all of these people, because they also got some really good answers from everybody. But you know, I think we got them fresh and we got them energized, and they were, you know, early in the day where I feel like we got Group One energy was the best energy. Yeah. I don't want to make this a competition, but
you know, just throwing it out there.
a little bit of fun. But anything in particular that Alan said there that caught your attention? Because I know that I think he gave good answers to what I asked, but nothing too revelatory, at least to me.
And I think he was in the same spot as you were saying before. We showed the interview that, you know, K2 wasn't in Andor all that much. So, I mean, it's really cool that he has his own headcanon about how things should have happened. It would have been awesome if we got to see some of that. But, I mean, it's 12 episodes. They already did so much with the show that I think it would have been really hard. Yeah. But I think it's really cool to do that kind of back and forth between what it was like, you know, playing K2 in Rogue One, you know, everything that has happened since Rogue One came out, and, you know, all the love for the characters now in Andor, and, you know, K2 specifically, and the fact that, you know, he got his own hallway scene. Obviously, I agree with him. Vader, nobody beats the Vader hallway scene, but I thought K2 was pretty badass as well.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It's up there. It was pretty good.
It's up there. Human shield.
But I mean, Alan was amazing. I think. I mean, he had really good things to say, and, like, with a lot of joy. Again, I think that was the most important takeaways. Again, we were talking about with Tony and Margit, like the love that everyone has had for this show, and how much appreciation, right, they have for being a part of it. And, you know, and I'm very thankful, right, for the opportunity of Lucasfilm giving us the chance to be able to not just go and visit, but to be able to participate and, you know, see Lucasfilm's offices, see ILM, and then be able to share in the Andor magic and continue celebrating it by talking to, Marquis Pfeiffer, Tony Gilroy, and Alan Tudyk, and and kind of trust us to not make a fools of ourselves, talking with them, and hopefully everyone that's watching this and listening to this has enjoyed the experience and enjoyed all the questions and enjoyed the answers, and hopefully all the love and passion is palpable throughout all of this, because I have my fingers crossed for the Emmys that Andor gets some good love in the nominations, and hopefully a couple of wins. I think it deserves it.
It's such a good show.
It's up against some tough competition.
I know.
And you know how these award shows are against sci-fi, and especially Star Wars. I do think that there's some unspoken thing against.
Well, come on, let's be a little bit cautiously optimistic.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It's all about cautious optimism.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
expect
Let's
the worst.
leave on a good
best.
note. Yeah. And I love that Alan Tudyk loved the stilts. And something about that just made my day when I heard that.
Who wouldn't want
You're
to
very
be that
tall. Yeah. Well, anyway, I think that's it for us today. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you thought about the interview with Alan Tudyk. If there's anything specific that jumped out of you, if there's anything you want, from us in forward episodes, we have one more surprise interview coming up. So please, keep paying attention. And until next time, may the force be with you.